I first became a junior member of St. Clair Country Club back in around 1954. Well, I later became a member in my own right in 1970.
I was a junior member starting about 1934. And after World War II, in 1946, I became an active member.
68 years. I was a junior member before that, but that's when I became a full active voting member.
It has to be 55 years ago, I would say. I was pretty young. I guess I lived on Country Club Drive, which was quite close. And it was easy for the kids to walk down here and easy for me to walk down here. And then my children started playing golf. My father played golf. I played golf with him. It was in the center of the township, and it was the easiest club to get to. They had a prime piece of real estate here.
Well, it had to be in the late 1940s, I guess. I'm not real sure of that, but I know I was still pretty young, maybe 7 or 8 years old. My father belonged to South Hills Country Club and enjoyed the camaraderie that he had out there, maybe too much. And my mother would always like St. Clair Country Club, so for two reasons, get my dad away from his friends and enjoy St. Clair Country, they joined, and I guess they went in pretty quickly, I can't recall.
In my case, my father belonged.
Well, the same for me.
Well, because my parents were golfers and I was lucky enough to be born in a golf family.
You know, St. Clair Country Club is a place that has a lot of tradition and means a lot to me because when I first joined, my parents were members. So, you know, this is a great club. It's in my hometown where I've always lived. And it's meant a lot to my parents, my sisters, and now to my family, my wife and our kids and our grandchildren.
I think I always liked it. I think that every Sunday we would go out. My dad wanted to buy a farm out around here in Upper St. Clair, and my mother kept putting her foot down. And I guess my earliest recollections is coming here and having Sunday brunch or late lunch or dinner on Sunday night.
Well, I was happy to be able to play golf any place, especially at a private club.
Even though it's, you know, my membership has spanned a lot of years, my recollection of St. Clair Country Club is very similar over all that period of time. It's just a, you know, it was obviously a great golf course. It was in the past, it is today. It was known as a place where you know, swimming during the summer was an attraction to kids and other family members. And it's been a great social gathering for people of all ages. And it's just been very steady in all those regards. And I think that's probably as important a thing to say about it as anything else. It's something that was there, you could rely on it. And it was always something that the members were very proud of, and that many others from this region were anxious to join.
Well, the club has definitely grown facility-wise and membership, I'm sure. I think back not very long ago, it was 300 to 350 members. I'm not sure of that, but I think it was something like that.
All the changes were positive. It's just a question of, there were so many changes. I remember for years we had an outdoor dance floor on this side of the club where people would come and dance outside on this wooden platform. It was kind of back in the 20s days. But the changes have come about every 5 or 10 years, it seems like. But most of them certainly positive.
Well, it's become much more sophisticated. Of course, we have a lot more members now than we did in those days. But certainly, every improvement they've made here is certainly bettered the club.
There was quite a row over increasing the number of members at St. Clair Country Club. And I think my neighbor down the street here was the one that took a beating on that. And, but it was very rigorously discussed. And I think then finally it went through.
Well, they have specials now, and they have drives. Back in the old days, we had anywhere from a 3 to a 8 or 9 year waiting list, so we didn't have to go out to get members. Now I think they got over 100 members. I'm not positive of that figure here a couple of years ago when they put the drive on.
People were very friendly. It's a typical Midwestern club. When you joined, they invited you to play golf with them. I never felt left out of anything. I hope it's still the same. There's a lot of new young members coming in, and I hope we're as welcoming to them as some of the older people were to us.
Well, this is a much more diverse club. When my father first joined, and when I was a young kid, and actually when I, first joined in my own right in 1970, the club was dominated by, I would say, local businessmen and doctors/dentists. In fact, it was, they had enough clout and prestige in the club that was, doctors always took off Wednesday afternoon, and that was a tradition, that doctors and dentists played golf on Wednesday afternoon. And no one else was allowed on the course but the men on Wednesday because of that. And it's not filled today by doctors and dentists exclusively, but it's still quote, still men's day, except with certain limited privileges now in the Terrace 9. And that's one of the, I guess, the few traditions that continues. That was what the club was like. It was an older club, but I was younger. So when I'm looking at it as the older club, I was looking through the eyes of a young man. But I would think today that there is much more diversity in age, in occupations, in walks of life, and fortunately, we've a lot of female members who come here and are members themselves, and we are diverse ethnically. We have been diverse ethnically, and I think that's all a good thing for St. Clair.
It's just the old guard, and they've always been very strong here. I always said it was a male chauvinist club. They ran everything. They did things the way they wanted to, and nobody else had much say-so, including the women.
Well, there was a big meeting, probably the most heavily attended meeting since I joined 25 years ago, was allowing women to become voting members.
Ah, yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was...
I don't think Mom ever did that, did she?
Well, no, because you were already a member.
Yeah.
So
she
wouldn't need to. But,
right.
There were some young women who wanted to become members, and it was a big meeting. A lot of people came to that general open meeting, and of course they voted to allow for that to happen. But up until then, if you were a woman, you couldn't become a voting member.
Right.
You couldn't become a member at all, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah. Only men.
With your spouse.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember when they It's not been too long since the women were allowed to be members here. It's been fairly, I think, in the last 10 years. It certainly has been more diverse. And of course, I noticed recently they're a lot younger.
Eventually, and to their credit, they put a woman on the board. And they needed a woman on the board because women's golf was getting larger and larger and larger here, and they needed somebody to give a woman's point of view. And that was a good decision on their part.
Well, I think it's special because it's a well-run special club. The food is excellent. The personnel, all of the personnel are good people, and that's what makes a good club.
The people. And the people who work here are wonderful. I know almost all of them by now. And all the ones that have been here a long time I know really well. And they're a fantastic group of people.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just we're very blessed, and I'm going to leave somebody out if I start naming people. And we've been very blessed to have members, employees who have come here and have stayed and have really been committed to St. Clair.
Well, Wendy up in the office, and Penny I don't know whether she cleans or whether she works on weddings, on pinning the tablecloths on the tables for weddings. And Marilyn is down in the ladies' locker room. She's a great gal. Well, Butch, the bartender, has been here forever.
Well, I think the bartending crew, they're terrific. I think everybody's terrific. I really do. I can't have a complaint.
Well, I liked our locker room guy, was named Nick Lorandino. I think he was from Coriopolis. And we were about the same age. I was quite young when I joined. And so we had a good friendship.
Well, I can think of one person that's going to retire, Phil Newcamp. The club will really miss him.
And then they're good. And Phil's been here. Phil was here a long time. He's done a very, very good job.
He was just the best golf pro I ever ran into anywhere. Not only was he a good pro, he was a real gentleman. And everybody here just loved him.
I'm the director of golf, but I was the golf professional before that. This is my 40th year. Well, I was an assistant professional at Fox Chapel, and I was looking to make a change, and the position opened here, and that was in 1976, and here I am.
Oh, since 1974, August of 74. I actually started before that, August 74. Be 41 years in August, so started in the kitchen and the houseman and bartender, waiter, I did them all, believe me. Mr. Wirtz was the one who hired me for the men's locker room job, and he was the president at the time, and because I was in the men's grill being a bartender and a waiter, and Nick Londino, who was there before me, retired, and he gave them to me. I think I'm the fourth locker room attendant since I've been there. I don't know who was before Albert. There was Albert, Nick, and then I. So I had neighbors working here, and I was in high school, and I said, okay, I need to get a job. I got a job, and I've been there ever since. So worked my way through the club, so did every job, everything but the manager. In fact, I did that at one time when we were in between jobs for managers. So
The people are really down to earth, and I consider them all my friends, members and employees.
Phil, Jim Wazalewski, there's quite a few of them. They're good guys here. They give their 100% undivided. I mean, Jim's the assistant chef, and Phil, John Joyce in the grill. There's a lot of them. Chad in the fitness center, a good guy. So, there's a lot of great people. And Wendy's exceptional, so you take your pick. And you got Brandon that brought him into the club too. I'm Brandon. You hated me for it ever since, haven't you?
Well, I feel like I'm close with them all, but like a lot of them, I sort of grew up with them, and I've seen, like some of them have grandchildren now, just like I do, and so I've seen 3 generations, sometimes 4 generations here. I've played a lot of golf with the members. Every year I averaged around 80 or 90 rounds, and I tried to play with different members all the time. And it usually, in the course of the year, I played with about 150 different members. Juniors, women, men, it didn't matter.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, believe me, they're all great. I can't pick one out from another, but they're all, they treat me like family, and I treat them like family. I mean, it's great. It really is. Not really. I try to treat them all the same, so. And hopefully I do, so. I guess I do, because I've been here 40 years.
I could go back. I'm going to have to throw out one name here because he was a very big part of St. Clair in its early days. And a fellow by the name of Earl Birdie.
Mr. Birdie at the pool taught us how to swim.
Yep, that's right.
You teach all 4 of us?
Yes. Yeah, he's a legend.
Earl Birdie was the head of the swimming pool. When I joined, my family joined here in mid-50s, Earl Birdie ran the pool. And everybody who came through St. Clair Country Club was taught how to swim by Earl Birdie. He not only taught you how to swim, he gave you swimming lessons, and you became, whatever level of swimmer you became, you learned it from Earl Birdie. And Earl was also a phys ed teacher at Carnegie Mellon University and was a college football ref. And it was a bundle of enthusiasm. And Earl made Mr. Birdie, as he was called to all of us, made swimming fun and made a lot of young kids be willing to jump in that pool because they trusted him. And that's a name that you just can't forget when you talk about St. Clair history.
I had worked at 2 summers out at Shady Side Academy, and my wife and I taught in the day camp there. And once a week we'd take our swimmers over to Shady Side or to Fox Chapel Country Club to use their pool. And the lifeguard from Fox Chapel was going on vacation. They were looking for someone to take the pool in his absence, so they invited my wife and I to come over and be the pool directors while their original employee was away. So we got to know the people at Fox Chapel Country Club, and at the end of the summer, that fellow was in the garden, worked before Shirley and I, was in dental school. So he left Fox Chapel and went to dental school, and we heard there was going to be an interview at Fox Chapel, so Shirley and I went out and had a real good interview, and they hired us, and we worked at Fox Chapel Country Club for 2 summers. And at the end of the second summer, I decided I was not going to go back to Fox Chapel. And I was good friends with the director of the Water Safety Committee here in the city of Pittsburgh. And I knew Mr. Bonavita through my association with teaching swimming at Carnegie Mellon University. It was Carnegie Tech back then. So he told me that they were going to build 3 pools in the summer. And one was Churchill Valley Country Club. The second was South Hills Country Club, and the third pool was St. Clair Country Club. And my first question to him was, where is St. Clair Country Club? I had never even heard of St. Clair Country Club. So I called the club manager here, Clem, who was a very nice elderly gentleman, and we arranged for an interview. And I talked to Mr. Walter Ross, who was the first pool chairman that they had while the pool was being constructed. And I arranged for an interview, and I'll never forget, walked in a room, there was a semicircle of chairs, and I was in the middle, and they were popping questions about me, and I really felt bad for them because they had no idea about how to run a swimming pool or what was required to have a swimming pool because they've never had a pool at St. Clair Country Club. And prior to that year, it was more of a gentleman's club where embarrassed to say, but they used to ask all the females to leave the club grounds on Wednesday afternoon, so it was taken over by strictly the men. But with the increase in the young people in the club and the elderly gentlemen who would like to keep this club as a gentleman's club, they figured that they would like to have their immediate family and grandchildren be able to swim in the pool. So that was one of the main reasons they built the pool at St. Clair Country Club. So I thought the interview went well, and we interviewed upstairs. We looked out the window and there's a big hole in the ground. And they said, well, that's your pool. And that was in April of 1956. And they had a lot of construction problems, and we finally did open the pool for swimmers in July of 1956. And my wife, myself, and my brother-in-law were the 3 employees for the pool. We opened up with 3 lifeguards. And that's when we had our first swimming team, our first diving team, but it was a short summer. So then I was interviewed again at the end of the year, and I just kept coming back, and to my knowledge, we never had a contract here. And I told them anytime they didn't want Mr. Birdie to be here, just tell me and I'd leave. But by the same token, if I wasn't happy, I could go somewhere else. But once I got to know the people here at St. Clair Country Club, I knew I wasn't going anywhere else. And I was here 43 years, and I've seen many, many improvements. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and a lot of these people are still our good friends today, even after my retirement. And we had a lot of fun. And my philosophy with swimming and teaching swimming was to make it fun for the kids. And we had a good time. We used to play Ring Around the Rosie and dive down, touch Mr. Birdie's toes, and all little games to get their head underwater. And then I used to make a big deal. The big prize was in the beginner's class, if you could swim the width of the pool, I would give the child a pair of sunglasses. I motivate them to swim across the pool with the sunglasses. And I'm happy to say some of my students still have those sunglasses that they earned from Mr. Birdie when they passed the swimming test of swimming across the pool. But the people at St. Clair Country Club for 43 years were just wonderful to not only myself, but also my family. My wife became good friends with the ladies out here. They got together and we put on water shows. Were fantastic. I don't think any other country club in this area would have over 100 young people in the water show. And we used to hire, would tape everything, would rent floral arrangements, and it was a real big production. And we had very successful swim teams because we had the swimmers that swam for the local high schools. And it started out with the Mount Lebanon, and then they swam with the Mount Lebanon Aqua Club. And then when people start moving out south, come to Upper St. Clair, we had Upper St. Clair High School and Upper St. Clair AAU swim team, and then Peters Township. So we had some really good swimmers. We had great success in swimming and also diving. And my dear friend, Dr. Richard Jewell, was a diver. And he spent many years on the pool committee, and I can say this, we had the greatest diving facility in Pennsylvania because we had at least 12 foot of water, 12 and a half foot of water. We had the best diving boards that we could possibly buy. We had a lot of interest and would start our interest down with the 8 and under divers and then just move them up along age-wise until we dominated the diving championship here. And it generally was held here at St. Clair because of our facility. And we had years in a row consistently win the diving championship. And at the end of the year, we had a big swim team banquet and diving, and then we'd honor the swimmers and divers, and the kids would have the lunch here, and then we'd go over to the pool and have a swim party, and then the parents were invited, and the parents got very active in the swim team. They were very great. They would follow us when we'd go to swim other clubs and so forth. And then I was asked to become the executive secretary of the Western Pennsylvania Country Club Swimming Association. And we were comprised of 23 clubs in the tri-state area. And we were forced to start an association because many of the clubs had their own rules. We figured it would behoove everyone to have rules for every club. So we formulated the Western Pennsylvania Country Club Swimming Association, and I think one of the first presidents was a member of St. Clair Country Club who was on the board here. And he had two sons. It was Tom and John Lindsay, and his name was Mr. Jack Lindsay. And he was very adept about competitive swimming. And he had two, as I said earlier, two sons who were fantastic swimmers. So he asked me to be the executive secretary of the Country Club Swimming Association. And I thought it would be a good idea for me to know all the rules. And due to the fact that I made up the rules for the Country Club Swimming Association, I knew all the rules, but I figured it was a real help for me to know all the rules and pass all the rules on to the members of the swimming and diving team here at St. Clair Country Club. And according to the records, there were I served 7 different club managers in my time here. But the biggest advantage I had was the complete respect and support of the board of directors, because the swimming pool chairman was a member of the board of directors. And without their support, things never would have been as nice as they were during my tenure as pool director here. And if I had a problem, I'd go to the pool director, or to the pool chairman, and then he would take it to the board, and then he'd get back to me, and then would solve the problem. But as far as discipline, I was very fortunate because we had very little discipline problems, because I start teaching the children of the children, and the few problems that we had would be with guests, because everybody come to the country club and wanted to do everything they couldn't do in public pools, and that didn't go over well here. So we had to make up our own rules of the pool for St. Clair Country Club. And then, of course, we had an emergency accident plan. If there was an accident, we handle it. And we had it written on paper, and all the guards had to read it and sign it before they would start the season. So, but then, as I mentioned earlier, I taught 4 Jimmy Stevensons how to swim. First was Grandpa, Mr. Stevenson, super guy, had never had a swimming lesson in his life, and he wanted to learn how to swim. So I'd wait till after dinner, there wasn't too many people around the pool, and he and I would go down the shallow end, and finally I got him to swim across the pool. But he didn't get any sunglasses, right? So, but that was Grandpa. And they had a son, Jimmy. Jimmy threw the javelin in the Olympics. And he was a big guy, and he played football for Penn State. Jimmy played football for Penn State and Pitt, and a super guy, and I taught Jimmy to swim. And then his son, Jim, and I taught Jimmy's son, Jim, to swim, and his son, Jim, had a son, Jimmy. So I taught 4 Jimmy Stevensons how to swim. And they had Uncle Tom Stevens. Tom was a big boy. He swam 8 and under, and he's about a head taller than all the other 8 and under swimmers. And I used to have to take his birth certificate to the meets because they thought they had him in the wrong age group. But Tom turned out to be a very excellent swimmer, and also I think Tom was a state legislator from Mount Lebanon. And Tom was the captain of our team for, I think, 2 or 3 years. But as the children grow up, they married and had children, and then as soon as they got old enough, they brought them to the pool and let Mr. Birdie teach them how to swim.
Before I came here, the swimming pool used to be right where the putting green is now, that little putting green, and they moved it to its present location right now in 1975.
When I first joined here, the putting green in front of the pro shop was the swimming pool. And then they moved the swimming pool over to the left out there and made it much bigger, and it's certainly a very popular place for all the young people.
The pool has always been a big attraction. When I joined, the pool was right where the putting green is outside the pro shop today. And above that were the bleachers, which you could look down at the pool. And where the pro shop and the bag room was in essence, the changing rooms for the swimming pool. And then that changed when they built a new pool, and they used that area well by turning it into the pro shop and the storage area for the golf and the carts.
Oh, I do remember coming over here with my little kids to the old swimming pool and sitting up in the stands by the snack bar. And I brought peanut butter sandwiches for them because that's all they ate. And I got a letter from the board of directors saying I could not bring my peanut butter sandwiches in anymore. So I wrote a letter back saying if they would make peanut butter sandwiches at the snack bar, I'd be happy to buy them. Sure enough, the next week they had them on the menu.
We built the first pool, and at the time it was built, it was a 25-meter, 6-lane pool with a high board and a low board. But then as the club membership increased, we got more action at the pool every summer. We decided we needed a new pool to take care of. We need more area in which people could swim. So that's when we moved across the road and built the second pool, and it was an L-shaped pool. And I was involved with the meetings. Our pool chairman was Mr. Drew Kessler then. And I still remain today very good friends with Drew and his wife, Mary. And the architect was Foster Rankin. And the pool, the contractor to construct the pool, I think, was Mr. Costello. And they were all very familiar with the needs that we had for a new pool. And that's why we decided to make an L-shaped pool, 25 meters by 25 meters. It gave us, and we could run our races one direction or the other. And it had a little more space for the team to work out. The snack bar reported to the chef, but we had problems. Well, I always had the discipline of inside the pool. Anything inside the fence, discipline-wise, it was up to me. But anything could turn with the snack bar was through the kitchen. Well, they had some problems there, so when Mr. Rimkovicus came here as club manager, he asked me to take over the snack bar. So I had complete control over that. But I was informed by the club managers that anything inside that fence was my responsibility. Now, I didn't have the parking lot. Parking lot was somebody else. But as soon as they come down the steps into the pool, then they were under my jurisdiction. What they do, they used to get the rookie on the board and make him chairman of the pool committee because he couldn't get into too much trouble with the pool. So one year, Mr. Fisher and his son, Mike Fisher, the politician. I taught Michael this one, but Mr. Fisher was an attorney, and he was put on the board, and they made him the pool chairman. He come down, and it was Memorial Day. We opened Memorial Day, and he come into my office. He said, "Well, Mr. Purdy, I'm going to be the pool chairman. Now, here's my phone number. If you have any problems, you call me, and I have your phone number. If I have any problems, I'll call you." He come down Labor Day and said, "Well, I guess we didn't have any problems this year." But being the pool chairman was the easiest job of the board. And when things went to the board, I mean, that was serious stuff. And we didn't have too much serious stuff. And I witnessed some pretty good exchange of words from the club manager with the pool chairman. Right. because the club manager was interested in what was going on here, and the pool chairman was interested in going on onto the pool. Well, just off the side of the story, that we had umbrellas around the swim pool, and they had a big party here, and they needed umbrellas for the porch. So the club manager said the house boys over took all the umbrellas from the pool and put them on the back porch. Well, didn't take too many phone calls before the pool chairman called me and said, "What happened to the umbrellas?" I said, "Well, the club manager took them." He says, "Did you know he's going to take them?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "That's it. Call him back. Get those umbrellas back over there." But I didn't get involved. The board didn't get involved. That was between the club manager and the pool chairman. Right. So to answer your question about my association and affiliation with the board, but I knew all the board members because I taught their kids to swim.
To have a great club, you had to have good, dedicated boards of governors. And my impression always was that we had people who were willing to serve on the board of governors because they cared about St. Clair, just like I did. And so that's what I thought the history of governance was. And when I became a member of the board, I think in 2004, it pretty much confirmed for me that not only was our membership outstanding, but people who volunteered for board service really made significant commitments. They came from all walks of life. They came from medicine. They came from law. They came from business. Everybody put their collective heads together, and we tried to continue to make sure the club continued to move forward. But you couldn't do that without strong management, day-to-day management. We're a volunteer board who has other things that we do, and we've always had a succession of outstanding club managers here who have helped to guide the club here at St. Clair.
I think that most of the board does well. They're all successful people. I served on the board 3 years myself, and it's a good thing. Everybody ought to get a chance to do it, to know what's going on.
Well, one of the things that helped me as a board member and then as club president, I had served for 30 years in elected office in this area. And in my job and professions, I had a lot of people complain to me about a lot of different things. So when I got on the board, a few complaints about the quality of the food, or the difficulty of the sand traps, or the number of trees on the course, or the whatever it was, weren't quite as major as some of the things I had previously dealt with. But they were all important to those people who complained about them. And when you talk about memorable complaints, one of the things about our membership here, I would get verbal gripes from people, but there weren't that many times that people would sit down and write a nasty letter or send a sharply worded email to express a deep felt view about something going wrong. And I think that was an indication that we were probably doing things pretty well. You don't as a club do things well without a good staff. And we've had stability. The Steelers have had only 3 coaches in close to 50 years now. And St. Clair Country Club's only had a golf professional in Phil Newcamp who's close to his 40th year here at the club. So, we have stability in leadership, stability in management, and I think that lessens the complaints that people would typically bring in a club like this.
Well, the board is shifting all the time. 3 new guys coming in, or 3 new persons coming in, and 3 going out. And about the time you've been there, 6 years, you finally know what's going on.
I was golf chairman for 3 years. We were instrumental in buying the property where most of the golf course is now. We were the first ones to put fringes on the green. We were the ones that moved, I believe, to move the golf course over to where it is now beyond the swimming pool, but it was early, wasn't that far out then.
But the one thing that I remember that isn't here today is that in the hole, which is now number 17, was, I think, one of the holes on the front nine. It was number 8 or number 9, but it had the what was historically referred to as the Keystone Green. And the Keystone Green was the shape of, literally the shape of Pennsylvania. And it was something that people remembered. But when the course was done over in the late 60s, there were many more lakes put in the course, the system of lakes, which runs from 18 to 10, up to number 4 and number 3, and then up to number 7. Those were all added. And that's when the course was expanded to that side, and much of the back 9 of the old course is now our terrace 9, although we gave 3 of the holes away to the township as a good neighbor for the township to be able to have 3 holes for recreation for the township residents.
Well, as I said, the holes were, I mean, they put the tee here and a couple traps around the green, not many fairway traps in those days. And the course was difficult because the terrain, it's up and down and around. And now, when they build sand traps, they build them so that you can see them. In those days, they didn't think much about that. It's just like if you played St. Andrews, traps all over the place, you can't see them. You have to know where they are, and that's kind of the way it was here. But the improvements as they came always made the course a little bit better.
Well, the golf course is much improved now. It's really a championship course now. Before, it was a sporty course with some very short holes and a short 9. We only had 34 par in the back 9. 3 of them were par 3s, so 2 of them were very difficult. But you didn't have to hit a real long ball to be efficient in those days. Short games were more important.
Well, the layout is basically still the same, the routing, but the bunkers are a little deeper, and the grass around the bunkers is much longer, and if you miss the greens now, it's a much harder shot to get it up and down.
Well, the bunkers they put in at the last improvement make it a lot tougher. We no longer putt very many of them out, and there are more of them and they're deeper. We've had some very good greenskeepers, and they keep the course in top shape.
I was involved in the 2007 renovation. I was actually president of the club that year, and the course was getting, it was a little stale. Our irrigation system was pretty much exceeding its useful life. Estimates were that if we wanted to modernize our irrigation, we needed to have a new system within the next 5 years. I think underground our pipes were probably good, but our system didn't give us enough coverage. So we decided that since we needed a new irrigation system and we wanted to do some changes in the drainage on the course, and also wanted to realign some tees and do some other work, to try to package that all together so it could be done as part of one project. And it was. It was done as a $5 million project that the membership at the club supported overwhelmingly. And we had a top flight landscape architect by the name of Keith Foster who came in and added his fine touches to what was already a great course. But essentially modernized this from tee to green and helped us. We were able to provide new cart paths and a new irrigation system which really gives us coverage not only on the holes themselves but in the roughs, and we have a much more consistent rough that we're now continue to work on. It's an ongoing project, but it's changed a lot since then.
I'll tell you, the guy that did the latest improvements really did a marvelous job. He was kind of a cocky guy, but he knew what he was doing. And he was well rewarded for doing it, too.
Keith was quite the... Keith was an exceptional golf architect. We were very lucky to get him. He only did a couple courses a year across the country. And what impressed me most about Keith was he came and he walked the course once, and he came to a meeting and he knew everything about it, all 18 holes on the course, and had very realistic recommendations as to what we should do to change them and make them even more competitive. And he did that. And what he also did, a big part of his project, was to reshape all of our sand traps. And some people like the new sand traps. Others don't like them as much because they're a little bit different, a little bit harder to get out of. But I think aesthetically, when you look at the course and you see exactly what we have in our new drainage system and our irrigation system, we had a nationally renowned architect to add his stamp of approval. What was already a very, very good course in Western Pennsylvania.
Well, I've never played the old course. It had changed to the 18-hole championship and the Terrace 9 by the time I started playing golf here with you. But you played here with Granddad on the old course, so I don't.
Well, one big change in the old course, new course, they used to have I forgot which holes it was. 7, 8, 9. They had a rope tow that you used to get up from a hill. You played the last holes down at street level, and then it was quite a hike up the hill from there. You could do it without the rope tow if you wanted, but I don't know many people that did.
So you carried your bag and held on to a rope and
Right.
it pulled you up?
Right, yeah.
I never did that.
Well, they've changed the course totally. The old course, we played down into the valley, the 3 holes that the township now owns. When I played the championship, I played on those 3 old holes. And now the course is totally different. And there was quite an argument about whether they should do that or not. Surprisingly, some of the people who argued against it think it's the most wonderful course now that they've ever played.
We always had we really had some legendary members here over a period of years. I had a lot of very competitive golf when I first joined as an intermediate member in 1970. There was even a fairly high level of gambling that went on. I hate to say that, but during those days, and there was a lot of fun. And I remember as a young man that there were some fairly high-stake members and pro members. One person who is a member, and as they say, to mention one doesn't mean I'm excluding all others, but we had a very famous member here, Bob Prince, who was the voice of the Pirates from the time I was a kid through the late 70s. And Bob Prince was a member here from as long as I can remember. And he got more involved at St. Clair when he ended up, he was replaced on KDKA for whatever reason. It took the Pirates years to ever replace him. But he started spending more time at St. Clair. And Bob had a charity golf event for a number of years. I don't know how many. Lanny Fratteri, who was a member for a fairly long period of time and still is part here, replaced Bob as the voice of the Pirates. And Lanny took over his golf tournament. But I remember one tournament, Bob Prince could attract the most important names in sport. And I was a young state senator, and he invited me to play in his tournament. And I remember sitting at the table down in the ballroom, and there were three famous baseball players sitting at that long table within, elbow shot of me. One was Whitey Ford, one was Joe DiMaggio, and one was Stan Musial. And they were all here at St. Clair at the same time. He had jockeys. I think he had Eddie Arcaro that came in. He had other people who were just famous people in the world of sports that could only be brought together by someone as legendary in his own right as Bob Prince. And so when you talk about legendary events, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget those. And we have some fun events today, but they sort of pale in comparison. I don't hate to say the old days, but they do pale in comparison to what they were like back then.
When Bob Prince was alive, he had a tournament called the Bob Prince Classic, and he would, Willie Mays played, Stan Musial, Whitey Ford, Brooks Robinson, Joe DiMaggio. I mean, it was like who's who in baseball from the 50s and 60s, when Bob Prince was here. I'm trying to think of some of the other players that were here, but there were quite a few Hall of Famers,
Now, Bob Prince was a character there. He used to come in and groom and on a weekend with 6 shooters on. But he would entertain all the baseball teams, though, like the Padres and the Dodgers. They come in, they'd be out there golfing. So you got to meet all of them. So it's pretty awesome.
Bob Prince was probably the most colorful member that we had. He was president of the club in the early 80s, but he always, he was such a generous person. When he was broadcasting for the Pirates and a visiting team would come in, he was always picking up the tab for some of the coaches or umpires even that came in and played. He would just call and say, whatever they want, just put it on my bill. And even when he wasn't well and he had to take a cart and we had caddies standing by, he would walk over, and this is really amazing, he would give them all $5 and say, I'm sorry, I can't take a caddy, but I hope this helps you out a little bit. And there were always 5 or 6 guys hanging out, and he took care of them that way. Really a good guy. Well, we've had and since I've been here, we've had the State Open, Pennsylvania State Open twice, numerous U.S. Open qualifiers, the West Penn Amateur, the West Penn Open, the Ladies West Penn Amateur. The Family House Tournament was probably the biggest one we held in 1989 and 90. And that was with 31 touring pros with a first place prize of $150,000 just for 2 days. And the least amount of money you could make was $12,000. So that was a big time tournament. That was probably the biggest one.
A Family House, which is totally awesome. We had 2 of them back to back, 89, 90. And you get to meet 30 of the touring pros, which is awesome. Payne Stewart before he passed away, couples, and it was pretty nice. Fuzzy Zoller, there's quite a few of them.
I played in the event both years. And I'm happy to say I didn't finish last either. Yes.
St. Clair is, and will continue to be just a premier place for people who are trying to look for a social outlet for themselves, their families, and golfing. Some of my best memories are the game of golf, but we've had so many friends here that we've dined with, entertained with, enjoyed their company because we all came here and spent time together.